Cerakote. The world's strongest coating, or something like that. Now, if you've ever watched someone Cerakote something and they did it the way they were supposed to, you might have thought that it was super tedious to do with a lot of rules, but I'm not one for following rules, and this isn't my first rodeo with Cerakote. But this was. Almost 3 years ago, I did some Cerakote when I built my dad's YZ125, and it's got over 175 hard hours on it. In the Cerakote training manual for the paint I used, and I'm going to use today, it says that sandblasting with glass beads will lead to premature coating failure. You can guess what I blasted these with. Aside from the 175 hours of Tech 7 boots rubbing on it, it looks pretty great. A little bit of wear, but not much premature coating failure if you ask me. And this frame didn't get sandblasted or an acetone bath. And the spray gun was freezing up while we were spraying it because it was 30 degrees outside. And this clutch case down here, same paint, looks just about as good, and it got sandblasting as well as an acetone bath in a little more ideal conditions. Couple rock chips, but not bad. And this is the air dry stuff, which seems to not be as good as the Bacon stuff. My point is I don't think this coating is as sensitive as they make it out to be, so let me show you how I do it. Okay, so I'm not sure where we're at, but we got some parts we need to sandblast here, including that one. So I pressure washed these things with the hot water pressure washer and the turbo tip. Got them cleaned up, not too bad. Some degreaser. So that's about as good as we're gonna get. You know, some of this like old burnt on two-stroke funk is not coming off like in there. I did forget to take that seal out. I'll pop that out in a second, but I gotta sandblast all these things right now. Okay, so let me make something clear. I know in the intro I made it sound like I didn't give a crap about the Cerakote prep process, but I do, kinda. You see, I want all my parts to last, so I tried to do the best I can to have success, but some parts I simply don't have the resources to pull off doing right, like that frame. So if you don't have a sandblaster, don't let that stop you from Cerakoting, but just know that I want to give all the parts I do the best chance to have success. Now I didn't film it, but I gassed all the parts out at 350, 100 degrees hotter than the curing temp. The goal of this is to remove any oil from the parts that may have got saturated from 20 years of being around oil. So if they're good at 350, we'll have no problem at 250. I also tried to soak all the parts in acetone. Didn't get the clutch case since I didn't want to waste a couple gallons of acetone, but it turned out fine. Okay, so this is a piston and a power valve for the YZ125. I also have this, and I do realize that I didn't explain any of what I'm doing here, nor did I film any of it. But what we're gonna do, we got a piston and a power valve micro slick, and if you guys know anything about this is kind of like their piston skirt coating. It's supposed to be like super slick or something, I don't know, that's in the name. But we're gonna put it on the piston. So we got the power valve completely ready, soaked in acetone and sandblasted. And I didn't realize, well, I found out, but these are aluminum that's been hard anodized. And the only reason I noticed is because it looked like it and it smelled like it and the magnet didn't stick. It smelled like anodizing when I was cleaning them up. And then this piston, got it all masked off. As you can see already, we're not gonna do the top or the ringland, just the skirts and inside. And as you can see, it is not sandblasted. And I don't plan on sandblasting it because it's already masked up Kind of want to keep that look, and I don't think it'll cause any problems. Vertex pistons have a very similar Teflon based coating, and they're not sandblasted. As you can see lines in there, you probably won't be able to see it on the video, but they're not sandblasted, so I'm not going to. Anyway, I get this stuff rigged up and we'll spray it. I did gas this thing out kind of in the oven at like 150 with the stickers already on it, so they stick a little better. And another thing I didn't mention, Desert Designs, I don't know, it might be my brand moving on from now. Did a really bad job putting this sticker on, so totally not centered, probably crooked. If you got OCD, then sorry about that. But we're in the desert, we're making designs, so that's what we got. No choice. Let's get these things painted up. Okay, so spraying these parts was nearly a disaster. The Harbor Freight spray gun was not set up right, and I wasn't prepared for how thin this stuff was going to be. I think the fluid tip in this paint gun is too big, and a smaller one would give you much more control. I should spend more than $15 on a paint gun to do this, but we'll make it work. So I started from the inside, trying to get those hard to reach areas, then moving out. The power valves were kind of iffy because I had to hold them from swinging, but it worked out. Okay, so we're all rigged up here. Got the parts hanging from the rack, masked up, that water pump there. Got the clutch cover over here just sitting on a flat piece of cardboard, so I don't get anything behind it. So I think we're looking good there. All these parts are going to be blue titanium, so let me mix this stuff up and let's spray it. All right, I shook this stuff up really well, and I think I'm going for about 35 mils of this stuff. I need about 2 mils of this stuff. Shake this up for like 30 seconds or something. That's probably good. And I've been straining some of this stuff. I only got 100 mesh strainer. If they wouldn't make the strainer so expensive, then I would strain it. But they're too expensive. Okay, I'm gonna let this sit for a second and go get the camera set up outside. Okay, so I think I forgot to press record. Happens at least once a day. But got the parts painted and they're in the oven at 170. I'm gonna do a flash cure for about 20 minutes for that clutch cover. Pull that thing out and then crank the rest of these things and get them done. But the reason that I'm gonna do that is so I can pull that thing out, and I'm gonna do a little stencil on it with the graphite black. So I'll catch you guys once these things are out and ready to paint. Okay, I did the flash cure. We're masked up here, ready to go. Never done this before. So we're just going full send. No time for trial runs around here. So that's the clutch cover, and then we got the clutch case over here ready for paint. We're gonna spray it up with graphite black. So let's mix up some paint and get them painted. Okay. I have to flash cure it at 180 and hope that fucking thing comes off. Okay, so here's the titanium blue parts. Came out amazing, I would say. I think this part was a little too thin when I sprayed it, but you can't really tell. So all these parts got 2 hours at 250 in the oven for curing after like a 15-minute setup tack time just at air temp. And then this guy over here, like I mentioned earlier, gave it about a 15-minute flash cure at 180 to start off. Then I pulled it out, let it cool off, put the stencil on for the logo. Then I sprayed that. Didn't do any other prep besides putting the stencil on. Sprayed that, and then I peeled like the outside of the stencil off. And I didn't want to mess up the inside. You can see I kind of messed up the D right there a little bit, but you can't really tell. I mean, this is going to get rubbed off with my foot within the first ride probably, but it'll look good sitting on the stand before that. So since I wasn't able to get the vinyl off on the inside, I ended up throwing it in the oven, did about a 5-minute flash cure at like 180. It might have got hotter because it was on the bottom, just real quick, and then pulled it out while it was still kind of hot, like 120, 140, somewhere in that range. Peeled that vinyl off when it was still flexible. Once I got towards the end, like over here, I started over here, the Cerakote started to get a little harder as it was cooling off, but I was able to get it off and it looks killer. And if I flip this thing over, you can see didn't really get that much coverage on the back here, these little tabs, because I didn't mask any of this off, but it worked out fine. You're not going to see that, so I'm satisfied with it. And here's the clutch case. The high heat masking tape pretty much removed itself in the oven, so that was easy. Turned out pretty beautiful. Got good coverage on everything, even these spots over here. Didn't get too much on the inside, even with that just being open, so that worked out great. I threw the bearings in while it was still hot. I ended up having to crank it up to 350 because that stubborn bastard down there wouldn't come out. And you'll see in the next video or whatever when I'm stripping this case down, that thing didn't want to come out for me then. Didn't want to go back in. This one went in pretty easy. And yeah, overall this thing came out great. Alright, so we've got power valve here. Did what I wanted it to do. You can see I oiled that area right there. But so with the micro slick, I don't think I mentioned it, but you are supposed to, after like 24 hours, lightly hit it with a Scotch-Brite, which I did. Kind of scuffed it up just a tiny little bit. Not bad. I think I'm just trying to take any high spots off, but these things will work out just fine. And then the piston over here, masking worked out beautifully, better than I would have thought. And I Scotch-Brite this thing too, and as you can see, or not see because this camera doesn't focus on things, but it did kind of scratch it a little bit. Hopefully we won't have too much coating failure since I didn't sandblast, but it is what it is. It looks cool, and that's pretty much all that matters. It'll wear off, I'm sure. I mean, the inside is fine. I didn't scuff the inside. Inside will stay on there. There's nothing to take it off. But the masking worked good. This is version 0 of the piston. I think I need to consolidate the logo. Maybe just make it like 2Ds or something bigger, so it's easier to peel that stencil off and doesn't get weird like it kind of got weird. But it's okay. We got to learn. And maybe in the future, if you guys would like, we might start offering these custom pistons with the Cerakote. I'll probably start doing the top Cerakote too, the gold stuff. That's supposed to prevent carbon fouling and heat or whatever. But I might end up selling some custom pistons, so if you're interested in that, let me know. Shoot me a DM on Instagram if you want one. I could get one thrown together for you. But anyway, turned out pretty good, and maybe look forward to buying these things in the future. Alright, so check this out. Put the covers on this clutch case. It looks absolutely killer. A little bit of blue on black, can't go wrong. So that's how it's gonna look when it's on the bike pretty much. Totally digging the way this stuff looks. And really, it's not that hard to put on, especially with this stencil I did. For a first try, came out pretty amazing. Couldn't have gone much better. So I think this whole job worked out, and that's probably going to be the end of this video. So if you guys enjoyed this, leave a like, leave a comment, and we will be back at more Cerakote soon. We got to do the brakes on this thing, maybe the triple clamps, so look forward to that. I'll probably try and do a little better how-to on how to Cerakote, because I didn't really do too well in this video. I only showed like half the process, but we got these done. We can get it thrown back on the motor, which will be next video, finishing the bottom end. So thanks for watching, and we'll catch you in the next one.